morning, everybody. Happy Monday. We got the crew back
One
today.
o'clock in the afternoon. What do you mean, good morning?
It's close enough. Fuck it.
It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Well, hey, West Coast people in Calgary. It's
Oh, okay. Yeah, fair. That's fair.
I also like to pretend I'm still out there.
Fair enough.
But yeah, been a minute. Obviously, you obviously had a good time in Nashville. Talked beforehand. I'm glad all things are well. And you were a little under the weather the past couple of days. Feeling better too?
Yeah. For the second time this past month of February, I had the flu, which, I'm kind of at the end. I have my last thing of Theraflu
No.
that I have
on the
to
edge.
take later. But no, I finally have like a lot of energy. Like I'm able to actually do like work and focus on it and everything. And so, I'm just, this month was tough. This past month was tough. I'm hoping that March moving forward is a lot kinder to me because the flu this year is no joke. It sucks. It really sucks.
It's brutal. Yeah.
But I'm good. It's been exactly 2 weeks since the last time I did an episode, I think.
So, something like that, but whatever.
I did one right before I went to Nashville, if I remember correctly. So
yeah. And
the Four Nations was still going on.
That was banana lands. We hadn't even talked about that, but that was banana land itself. What was I gonna say here? Yeah, like winter kind of slapped us in the face this past weekend.
Yeah.
So that was one last little hoorah before March. And March just means we're going to get muddy weather and it's going to get sunnier and everybody's going to be happy, hopefully.
And we get the playoff push.
And the big playoff push coming up. This is a really big week and frankly, a really important episode because of, who knows, something could happen in this next hour, right? And there's been so much speculation now because now it's
I have my phone right here.
Ready to go.
I'm keeping. By the way, I just got a really interesting article from The Score. They did an NHL Power Rankings Oscars edition because the Oscars was last night.
I was gonna read that. I saw it pop up.
I want to read at some point today. I want to read what they said about Calgary because I'm very curious to see.
We'll do it. Do you have it open?
Yeah, I could bring it up real quick. Where they have them ranked today? They're at 17th. Which is nice. So the movie they used was the movie Dodgeball from 2004, a true underdog story. It says, no one predicted the Calgary Flames being in the playoff race this season, much like no one predicted Average Joe's Gym making a run in the fabled Las Vegas Dodgeball tournament.
Bingo. So, and if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
Dodge a ball. Exactly. And, obviously we are now at the point where in the trade deadline where I think everybody's waiting for Mikko Rantanen one way or the other. I think that's what's holding up everything else.
It feels like, and we'll get into it, but I know we talked about Jack Hughes beforehand, right? But here's what I wanted to bring up. For those of you who don't know, obviously Jack Hughes had I believe it was a shoulder injury last night.
Jack Hughes was on a 2-on-1 last night, late in their 2-0 loss to Vegas, and he lost an edge. I'm going to just say that because I don't want people to be attacking Jack Eichel. He didn't do anything. It wasn't intentional. None of that. Jack Hughes went very hard into the boards, slow to get up. His arm was dangling as he carried it off the ice. And there is speculation that it might be a shoulder separation, which if it is, that's it. That's literally the end of the season. Because someone told me that's a 4 to 6 month recovery period. And that means he won't even be available until next preseason.
We'll see how it goes. I think there was somebody else who was put on LTI. So Matthew Tkachuk was put on LTIR, which is crazy because
spleen. I'm telling you, it's a spleen. It's so weird.
It is, but the stupid thing is he's going to be ready for the playoffs. Hence why Florida did the trade for Seth Jones, right? I had this all lined up, and I know this is coming out right away. The only good thing, I guess, and maybe this helps you as a Devils fan a little bit. Let's just bring the positivity in this for a second because of the LTIR bullshit, right? On the bright side, if it's not a shoulder separation and he is only out for a month, right? And he's ready to go. Well, then, boom, you can put him on LTIR.
Oh, yeah.
You free up space and you can go get some assets, right? So That's the only bright side I know. And then
and also to be fair, Jonas Siegenthaler is currently on LTIR. So if you want to do the math, you're essentially, if you put Jack Hughes on there as well, the Devils could be at about $15 to $16 million in cap space going into
they
Friday.
can make some noise.
That's why I think certain teams are not doing anything until the day up, because you want to hold on to that cap space for literally as long as you can. And then sometime around Thursday night, after a lot of the games are done, is when you're going to start to. I know that we get disappointed every year, Kyle, because we think that like, oh, this year's going to be the year where crazy stuff happens at the deadline. I'm hopeful that that actually ends up being the case this year. My expectations are not high. But for a team like the Devils, I don't know if it necessarily changes their direction in terms of what they do at the deadline, because just obviously losing Jack Hughes is awful, but I still think that they were going to make big moves anyway. Yeah, and I think they're still going to go for it. I don't think that they're going to just become sellers now in the last 48 hours and just be like, screw it. Because again, they're still in a playoff spot. They're still third in the Metro, and they still have, I think, something like a 6-point lead in terms of the last like playoff spots. So I mean, it's not like over, but if Jack Hughes is out for like, let's say, the rest of the year, it's hard not to feel that way, all things considered.
Well, we'll hope for his best.
All Hughes brothers got hurt in the span of 24 hours, by the way. You had Luke get hurt, but he was fine against Utah, where he hurt his shoulder somehow. Jack gets hurt. Who knows what's happening to him? And Luke and Quinn Hughes is day to day. So the Hughes family does not believe. I don't know. None of them can stay healthy. Not a single one of them can.
No.
And I just feel bad, and I'll just leave it at this, Kyle. I just feel bad for Jack Hughes because every year it's something else. And I don't know if it's necessarily on him or if it's bad luck or if it's a combination of both. It's just he's still such a young player at 23 years of age. And this is the third time that he's dealt with some form of a major shoulder injury. It's like, I don't know.
Wonder if that's his legacy,
Well, that's the thing. It's like, is he going to forever be a uber talented player that can't stay on the ice? Right. And I don't know. I can't think of a player that reminds me of that off the top of my head. I'm trying to think of somebody.
Well, as a Flames fan, that doesn't concern us.
No, of course not. For the Flames, it's just, I really thought they were going to win last night. I really did. I thought when they tied it, I said they're going to find a way to win this game in regulation. It's going to be awesome. Damn it.
I had a sneaky. So, okay, let's just take a look at last night, and then we'll take a look at these last 4 games here because I know it's been a hot minute. So, Flames fall 2-1 in overtime. I don't care how you look at it. It was a hard-fought point because they did not deserve to go to overtime last night.
Yes.
That whole first period was Dustin Wolf standing on his head yet again. I think the shots were 16, 15, 12-1 or something stupid like that. Actually, here, I can tell you. Yeah, they were 12-1 during the first period. They got outshot like crazy in the first period. And the fact that it was no score after 1 is banana lands, right? And then you have, I don't know if you saw the highlights, but Calgary, who got hit from behind, he looked like he got slew-footed a little bit. Should have been, in my books, unbiased Kyle here. I think it should have been a call. I think you have to call that personally because he did mention after the game that he beat him around, spun around and then beat him along the boards, and that's why he got tripped up. So I would call that a penalty. And then they go down the other way. Jackson Blake goes to Slave and pots it in. All of a sudden, it's 1-0. Cadre gets his revenge. Flames go on a 5-on-3 right at the end of it as it expires. He gets open on the right-hand side from Huberdeau, pots it in 1-1. And then a very crazy end of the third period because it lined up to being a double minor for Blake Coleman, right? Hanley gets in a fight, by the way, with, I think, Svechnikov, and that was a great fight. Double minor goes to Blake Coleman with just over 4 minutes left. And at that point, I go, game over. You just gave him the game, basically. And they were 0 for 4 on the power play at that point. That penalty kill was single-handedly the best penalty kill all season long from this team. That was gutsy. And I commend Kevin Ball, who was sensational last night. He was fantastic.
I think he's been really good just in general of late.
Yeah. So thank you for Ball. He's been so good. And we got a puck to the helmet last night in the back of the head. He goes off at the end of the third period, came back onto the bench to start overtime. So fully like hats off to him. Really well done. And then, just like after that, and then Canes fans were booing and going crazy about like I don't know if you saw the highlight where Wolf had the puck on his glove in overtime. Yeah. Aho literally poked it in, but the ref blew the whistle. Canes fans were up in arms, and I'm like,
right call.
He had the puck. Like
he had the puck, ref blew the whistle. There's the end of it. I've seen it so many times in the past where a goaltender has the puck and it's very obvious, and the ref didn't blow the whistle, let the play continue, and then eventually it's back in the net anyway. So like, I'm just glad that in that situation, the ref made the right call and did not allow Aho to get that goal, which at that time would have been frustrating.
Would have been tough, right? The way that overtime went, though, it was just a matter of time. I think Carolina just controlled it the whole time. It looked like the Flames had nothing left in them, and then Aho just ends up getting it through. But it's funny when you look at the stats here. Outside of shots on goal, which was fairly obvious in last night's game, the stats are dead even, pretty much.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Which is astonishing because Carolina controlled this entire game and it wasn't even close, right? So, and it was funny because Kat messaged me yesterday, like right after the first period, right?
Yeah.
I just got a random message from her, and what was the thing? I just wanted to bring it up. What she said from Serge Casper.
Yeah, let's plug it.
Your team is playing like a bunch of punks right now. I just said good.
She just be like, yeah, exactly, good.
But
was that a compliment? I don't know. Was that? I would like Kat to clarify. Was that a compliment or was she mad about it? Like, I don't understand.
I don't know. I was just kind of like, well, and I said to her at the end of it, I said too, I'm like, they did not deserve to get to overtime. The Calgary Flames did not deserve to get there last night to overtime, and fortunately they did. So, guys, kind of in the locker room afterwards were like, kind of relieved that they got a point out of that because they needed something turned.
Oh, dude, 100%.
But the biggest storyline, I think, isn't even from the game alone. It's the 3 games leading up to it. You lose 3 in a row. You do get a point out of this, which you have to take what you can get here. But it's 1 goal in 3 games. And Neil, I want your thoughts because we talked about this road trip beforehand and it being the biggest road trip of the season, and it was telltale too of like the direction of the team, right?
Sure.
It's the toughest road trip.
Yeah.
They played extremely well against Washington, right? And it fell off in Florida, and you can maybe argue Carolina last night. What's your overall view of this team just based on these last 4 games?
Yeah.
Take it as it is, right? What's the biggest viewpoint for you after seeing these 4 games now on the toughest road trip of the year?
I think the biggest thing to take away is something that I've seen a lot watching the Devils as well, and that is that the Flames certainly do lack scoring depth. I think that that's become fairly obvious, especially in these last 3 games. What I like though, the biggest positive I'll take away is the fact that this team, just in general, as we talked about numerous times throughout the year, just refuses to accept that that everybody's doubting them. Like they continue to fight, and even in this game against Carolina, they didn't play all that well, but Dustin Wolf gave them a chance. Somebody every night is giving this team a chance to perform. And I think at the end of the day, I still don't see a world where the Flames make any sort of big move at the deadline up until Friday.
We'll get into it. Yeah.
Which, we'll talk about. And I saw that you retweeted a couple of things on Twitter about with regards to the Flames. But it's just, they definitely do need more scoring depth because you can't rely on 1 or 2 guys to carry the whole team. Like I've said this numerous times that what makes a great, just like contending team and just a really good team in general is you have a multitude of different guys that are not just observers or followers. You have guys that are always looking for opportunities to step up. And it's not just always the big name guys; it's other guys. Like I think last year for Florida, I think Evan Rodriguez, I thought really stepped up tremendously in the early goings for Florida in the postseason. Wasn't expected of him, but that's what I'm talking about. But for Calgary, I look at those games and I say, you know what? It could have been worse. I think I look at all these results and it could have been worse. You played, honestly, a really good game against Washington. You really did. And you obviously with Tampa, Tampa's Tampa. You know, it's going to be it's always.
Don't forget, it was 1-0 Tampa all the way to the third period.
Exactly. So like that's what I'm saying.
And frankly, it was the same for Florida. It was like 1 or 2-0 going into the third period. So it's not like it was
right. And I think the big thing is that they just continue to fight, and that's what I like. And I said this several weeks ago that even if the Flames don't end up making the playoffs this year, I think for them just continuing to fight every game and, regardless of what the result is, I think just goes so well long term because you're creating that identity of we want guys in here that are going to push no matter what the situation is, no matter who's in the lineup and things like that. And fans want that more than anything. More than anything else, they want their team, even if they're not as talented, to show that they care, to show that they're making an effort. And honestly, I think the Flames have pretty much done that throughout the year. I can only think of maybe 2 or 3 games this year where I thought maybe the effort wasn't there. And I think 2 of them were like in the early, first month of the year. Or like the second.
Remember that road trip too, where they played like Columbus and Ottawa and Detroit and Pittsburgh, and that was kind of a disaster, right?
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah. I think of that one game against Vegas, like early in the year, where they just flat out did not show up. They just didn't.
Both games, actually.
Right.
Both games against Vegas.
Well, okay. Yeah. Well, that the first time, not the first time. But then look at the way they responded to that bad performance. They go home and they play a lot better. And that's what I'm saying. So I'm not expecting Ryan Huska to go into the locker room after a game like that and start ripping the players and be like, we got to play better than that.
Yesterday's game, you mean?
Yeah. Yesterday's game, yeah. Let me clarify. But I look at this and I say to myself, you have honestly 2 games that I think you could get pretty solid results. You're playing the Flyers, who are kind of fading at this point. And it'll be a big game, obviously, for Frost and, Farabee. Yeah, and even Kuzmenko to an extent. And it's going to be... And
Peltier.
And Peltier. So a lot of emotions there. For more for some. But I think you could use it as a motivating factor. Then you got Dallas, and I look at this schedule this month.
Mm-hmm.
This is hard. This is hard. This ain't it's not going to be you have some games where I could be yeah, and then I have other games where it's we're going to need a big performance from somebody. But that's what leads me into hoping that maybe the Flames go into the trade deadline and do something that we don't expect that ends up giving the team what they need, and that is what? Depth scoring. So.
Yeah. I'll say this. I saw it all last night, and I keep seeing it from Flames fans, and I don't know if you see it at all on your feeds too, but Kadri said it kind of perfectly, and, they just go, we don't care. We don't care about our Flames fans sitting there going, you got to lose to get into the top 10. I've been over this with that stupid draft.
Oh, the draft pick thing, yeah.
Not bringing it up again. It's not worth it, right?
Yep.
But you're right. I totally agree with everything that you said, right? Because they don't care. And frankly, they don't give a shit about what Flames fans are saying right now, the majority of them. They don't care, right? Why should they? I wanted to find the tweet, but I saw it this morning with one guy, and I apologize because I forget what his name was, but it kind of blew up, and I went, you know what? This is perfect. These guys didn't work their entire lives to fight for a playoff spot and all their fan base telling them to lose. Right? It doesn't make sense. These guys are going to, whether they make it or not, they're going to fight to the end. Does Neil have breaking news?
I have like, it's like semi.
Kinda.
It's not that big. So everybody, first of all, it has nothing to do with the Flames. So if you want me to hold off on it, I can.
Yes. Well, no. If yeah, it's okay.
It involves again covering the Devils for a living. I have I get this. According to NJ.com, Jack Hughes flew back to New Jersey just now. He's flying back now, which not a shocker. To be evaluated by the team doctors, and sources have been told that it may not be as severe as some are expecting. So
he could get put on LTIR.
But again,
all right,
as we know about hockey injuries, Kyle, who the hell knows what really is going on?
We don't know. Okay, let's save that for the back burner for the second half.
And now we're back to Calgary. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry today, guys. I'm having a bad day. I'm very sorry.
That's okay. We'll see what happens. Okay, let's finish this though. I don't think Flames fans the players don't give a shit about what the fans are saying right now. And I've seen it all over, right? Where they have to lose, they have to finish in the bottom 10, all this shit.
Love this.
They don't care.
Yes.
They don't care.
Yes.
Right? They're gonna go out there and they're gonna do what they're supposed to do. They're
Fuck the tank.
Kevin Ball is gonna throw his head out in front of any goddamn puck like he did yesterday, right? That's why I commend the effort of the guys yesterday.
Yes.
And you know what? Whatever. They got the goal. Fine. And you want to rip on the fact that they're in a rut for scoring? I get it. I totally understand that, right? Huska said it after the game last night. He's like, we're just in a scoring rut right now. But he goes, after that game yesterday, he's like, I know we're going to turn this around, right?
Good.
And the timing of it kind of sucked because of this difficult road trip. But you mentioned it, that March is going to be a challenge still, right? And there's going to be games in hand, right? And there's going to be times where, you still have a big game coming up against Vancouver, right? You still have to play. I think they have Utah still on the schedule.
They still have Utah, yes.
Big games coming up. You got a lot of teams kind of in the mix now for one spot, right? And for whatever reason, like, I fully believe this team's going to be in the hunt in the final week of the season.
Yes.
I fully believe that. I also think that, I don't know if they make it. We'll get into the trade speculations because I have news on that soon.
Yes, but you do.
I fully believe they're going to be in it, and I know that in March, like, you're going to get a sense of what this team's going to do. Plus, especially going into Friday, there's not a whole lot that I think is going to end up happening. Right, we'll get into that a bit
from Calgary's perspective, or just in general.
From Calgary's perspective, yeah. Okay. And then you mentioned it, right? Like, you look at the remaining games here. Tuesday in Philadelphia, that's completely up for grabs because they're falling.
Oh, 100%.
It's a great way to go in.
I'd favor Calgary in that game personally, just from the fact that I've been able to watch. Living on the East Coast here, watching the Flyers a lot this year. I would, and you know what? The Flyers goaltending, very suspect. So this is an opportunity. This is the type of game where you could potentially pot 3, 4, 5 goals. I look at it as, remember that game that they had in Chicago like a month ago, or like a month and change ago, where they
won like 5-2 or something like that.
They put up 5 goals and it was a little bit unexpected. Mm-hmm. That's kind of what I would like to see again from taking on another team with bad goaltending.
Again, though,
get right game.
Year it's a get right game, and they have to play a certain way in order to win. They might surprise. You said it, and that's a perfect example. They might surprise us on Tuesday, and they might win 5-1, 5-2. I don't know, right? They might surprise us and lose 5-1, 5-2. Right? But they have to play a certain way in order to be successful. And Huska and crew know this, right?
Yeah,
they know that they have to play a certain way in order to win games, right? It's going to be low scoring, and it's a defensive team. They will wear you down, right? And they will go. And frankly, I don't know, if I'm a Carolina fan last night, would you not be concerned that you went 0 for 5 last night with a double minor on that team?
I think if you're Carolina, you're concerned about a lot of things, not just that.
Fair.
But that's obviously because from Carolina's perspective, look how much talent they have, right?
They ran the floor against us yesterday.
And they scored twice. Once in overtime.
On a 3-on-3. I don't know,
I expected last night's game to be similar to what happened in Pittsburgh earlier in the day. That 6-5 overtime craziness that we saw.
I was expecting to get blown out of the building. The fact that we got a point last night.
I wanted to just quickly make one point to what you were saying a few minutes ago about what Nazem Kadri said.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you another great example of this. And for anybody who watches sports in general, you're gonna get this. I'm a Brooklyn Nets fan in the NBA. Okay, and the problem with the Nets in a way is similar to the Flames in that we're kind of in that weird middle where it's are we trying to tank for a higher pick, or are we trying to make a push to get into the playoffs? You have people on one side and you have people on the other, and you have people on Twitter battling each other all the time because that's just how this goes. Cam Johnson of the Nets straight up came out in the public and said, we do not care what our fans think. We really don't care. And some people might take that as a middle finger to fans. That's not really what he was saying. And that's not what Kadri's saying here either. What Kadri, Cam Johnson, and any athlete is going to say in their situation is that all they care about is winning. That's what they've been told from the time that they were little. They do not care about what may or may not come to fruition in the future. They are focusing on the right now to try to win as much as possible. The Flames these players would love to win every single game, the last 20 plus games of the year, and make the playoffs. Over just bottoming out as bad as possible and getting a high pick, which guess what? In a lottery, it's not a guarantee. So if the Flames finish with the 5th highest odds, that doesn't mean anything. They could easily drop if they were not careful. And then, what if you drop from 5 to 7? Was it worth it to bottom out? No, it was not. I'd rather they make the playoffs, get that experience, give Dustin. I would love to see Dustin Wolf in a 7-game series because I think he could actually do very well. I would love to see this young group of players in this organization. It doesn't have to make a run. Maybe you lose in 6 to I don't know, Winnipeg, right? In round 1. You know what? I still consider that a winning season, in my opinion. And that is a major step for a team that is not really rebuilding because they don't have to rebuild per se. They're retooling. But the bottom line is this, fans, players don't care what we think. They do not care. Unless we all want them to win, then they do care. But if we're yelling at them, we have to tank so hard for the next Victor Wembanyama. The players do not fucking care. They will never care. I just wanted to point that out.
That was beautiful.
I was just repeating.
That was a perfect way to put it.
I hope you clip that.
I was exactly thinking about that.
Because I'm sick and tired of this, Kyle. I'm so fucking tired of fans every year being whether your team, it's always either your team is terrible or your team is competing for a title. I don't like that because everybody can be built in multitude of different ways. I am not kidding about that. Guess what? The Vegas Golden Knights have won a Stanley Cup and have been ultra competitive since their existence. Why? Because they haven't had to tank once. They don't need to tank. What is the point? They just buy everything.
But also, too, it's Vegas. You're in Vegas.
Okay, but my point is, Kyle, is that not an example of a team that didn't have to rebuild, didn't have to go through the draft to become amazing? No.
Their goaltenders right now are Aiden Hill and Ilya Samsonov.
Imagine if they get a top flight goaltender.
Right.
Life isn't fair.
Right.
John Gibson is going to be a Golden Knight by Friday, and I'm going to hate it.
They lost Jonathan Marchessault this past offseason, right?
They're better without him. They're better without him.
That point, for sure. I wanted to add to that point. Do you remember Seth Jones on the Blackhawks before he got traded a couple of weeks ago, right? And he came out in the interview and was just pissed off, right?
I love Seth Jones. I love Seth Jones.
But it's awesome because it's the fans I'll use both, San Jose and Chicago, right? And they love the fact that, we're going to get another high draft pick, right? You better hit on it, right? And for the players, they're pissed. They don't want to be
of course.
It's a loss. It's a lost season for them back in November?
Yes.
Right? It was a lost season for these guys. And it's like, I'm sure as shit, guys like Connor Bedard is pissed off at this point, right?
Yeah.
He's probably pissed that it's like, guys, like, we're not getting enough good players around me. Fuck the draft for all that matter.
His best player is Ryan Donato.
Right. You went out and got Tyler Bertuzzi and you gave him $5 million, right?
Yeah.
You went and they gave Teravainen and all these other guys. And it's like, that's the difference for me. And that's why I totally agree where you get this team in, the guys that I care about get experience. The Zaris of the world, the Coronados of the world, the Wolves of the world, they get that experience, right? This is clearly an aging group and something that they're going to worry about in the offseason where I've kind of flipped the script a little bit and I think they need to get rid of Anderson. And I'm kind of on that boat, right?
Wow.
Because Zane Parekh has fucking 100 points in the last like month and a half. Or he has so many fucking points in the OHL, it's ridiculous, right?
But again,
playing the NHL.
Remember, Kyle, I'm just telling you this. It is junior hockey. That means no offense to Brett. That literally means nothing. I get it. It's awesome, but the kids got to play some pro hockey before. I'm not against trading Anderson if you're getting a good deal, but I'll tell you this right now: you're not getting it on Friday.
No.
So if you're going to move Anderson, this better be an off-season move, and you think about it.
Totally.
That's what I'm saying.
A lot of it's going to be the off-season, right? So
yes.
Screw
the off-season. We're talking about the right now.
So talking about right now.
Give me some trade moves.
Let's bring up one that came out today that I'm not a huge fan of. So the win column talked about Brendan Carlo from the NHL Bruins. The Flames apparently have reached out on defenseman Brendan Carlo. He is a right shot defenseman.
We don't need a right shot defenseman.
Right. Because you have Anderson, you have Weegar, and it goes down the line. So the only thing that's coming up from what I've seen between now and Friday, it looks like Daniel Miramanoff could be out. And it's possible that they might get some inquisitions about Joel Hanley. And that's about it. I wanted the Flames to go in and, for now, they just need a tiny bit of help on defense, right? And more specifically on the left-hand side, which is why, I don't know why you would go out and get Carlo. Maybe he plays on the left-hand side. I don't know.
I think that's the only reason I could see them doing it. But, I've never been a fan of a right-shot defenseman playing on his offhand. I'm not a fan of it. So
it's weird. I know.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's something that they're looking at. I don't okay, it's the right idea, maybe not the right hand of the stick. But they needed a little bit of help to kind of flourish out the top four a little bit because that's something that's missing, right? Where they have Kevin Ball being up there, I believe, with Anderson. For the most part, it's worked. Outside of Anderson, just on a bad stretch, for the most part, it's worked. Weegar just can't find a partner, and I don't want him playing with Joel Hanley. So that's
how many different pairings have we tried this year with Weegar? 5?
Too many, right? Don't forget too. Last night's game, they benched Braden Pahal, Miramanoff for trade speculation reasons. They benched Igor Sharangovich yesterday too. They healthy scratched him. So he needs to get going though. And to be fair, he's had plenty of chances on a line with Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee too. So I don't think it means so going into Friday. I don't think this means much, right? You won't see a lot of movement. That's just my belief. And they said it too, unless there's a big offer to one of the veterans, they're not going to push the needle.
No. I will say this, Kyle. I don't know if we talked about him, and it's going to depend on where this team feels their player is at this point. But, if you're looking for a left shot defenseman, if you're looking to add to a veteran who still has a little bit of term, I would call San Jose about Mario Ferraro. I would call.
They've also been linked to Luke Keenan.
I was about to say, no one is linked to Luke Hughes, Kyle.
No, Luke Keenan on San Jose was another name that popped up.
Yeah.
Cunnin, thank you.
I like him.
But I like him too. But to me, they made their big move. They made it already.
Well, we talked about 100%.
They made their bet in Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee. They made their bet offensively, and I don't believe they're going to make another move for it for the rest of the season.
If that's all they do, like the entire trade deadline, like if we're like by Friday and like Friday at, I don't know, 4 p.m., right? And that's all they've done, I'm not going to be upset. I'm really not going to be angry about it. I'm just not.
Yeah, they don't need to do anything.
But if they add anything, even if it's a rental of a left shot defenseman, I'll also be like, oh, good. Because the reason that I say Mario Ferraro is because I look at him as a guy that you could also keep like moving forward.
Sure.
But like also you're trading within the division, which will amp up the price that much more.
It also wouldn't surprise me if Ilya Soliev has also come up and played some big games too, right?
Yes.
And I even if they sell off Miramanov, and if people inquire about Joel Hanley and they don't get anything, like if they're not buyers at the deadline, I'm also okay with that. This is a team that's just not like they made their move, and it's going to be very quiet for them on Friday unless somebody goes after a heavyweight veteran and they throw in a huge offer randomly.
And the problem is,
could you see that happening? That's my question.
I don't see that happening personally. I think you could see a big move happening. I just don't think it'll involve any of Calgary's veterans. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think someone's going to go, yo, I want Huberdeau and his long ass contract for like not like
or Blake Coleman.
If you were to get Blake Coleman's contract off this team, even if you got like a 5th round pick, I'm just being honestly, I'd take it. I'm not even joking. I'm just like, I don't know. Like, and I find it interesting with Brandon Carlo. If he were to get traded, like in theory, from Boston to Calgary, the difference in terms of the standings is pretty much the same. Like, it's not like he would be going from like a team that's bottomed out to a team that's clearly in a play. No, he'd literally just stay the course, because here's the thing with Boston, and I'll just say this real quick. Boston doesn't have to trade anybody if they don't want to, because they're not out of it.
It's true, but also they're not in it.
I mean, look, here's the thing.
It's so weird because it's like they're actually the worst.
I'm telling you right now, where there's smoke, there's fire with Brad Marchand being traded. I'm telling you, that may be the big move, not necessarily for Calgary, because Calgary doesn't need that. But we've been waiting as hockey fans. We saw the Mikko Rantanen trade, and we're all freaking out because thank God we had something big. Brad Marchand getting moved to X team, regardless, is big news. Just because of like, holy crap, I can't believe that he got moved. Boston's in a weird spot. And
I know, and it's funny because Marchand wanted to finish his career.
He did get hurt. I just want to say he did get hurt on Saturday. So I don't know if that changes anything.
I don't think it does. But in terms of Brendan Carlo, I know you probably know a bit more about him being closer to the area. Do you what can you say on if this is something that the Flames end up looking at in a guy like Brendan Carlo?
If they needed a right shot defenseman, yes. Because what I like about Brandon Carlo is that he would just add yet another big body defenseman who actually has the ability to score at a decent clip as a more defensive defenseman. I like him as a player. He's the type of guy that I think you could really rely on a penalty kill situation. I think he's very reliable there. It's just, again, unless you're moving one of your right shot defensemen, and I don't know which one that would be at this point, or you're going to move Carlo to the left side, which
So humor me this. Is it an upgrade to replace Carlo for Miramanov?
Yes.
Right.
That's the way I look at it.
That's how I see it too, right? And I could see what I could envision happening, and I don't like it, is they probably didn't like Braden Mahala's game the last couple of days, hence why he was a healthy scratch last night in Carolina, right? Yeah. And they just signed him, by the way, to a 2-year deal, which he absolutely deserves.
Yes.
It's possible that Carlo might even go down and replace Paul And who knows? Maybe he's the odd man out. I don't know. Like that's the thing. Like it's really hard because it's like this team doesn't need any more right shot defensemen. They already have it in Perek coming up, and I believe Bruce Stevich is also a right shot defenseman too, if I'm not mistaken. He is right shot defenseman. So
yeah,
like that's why also too, I'm in the boat where Anderson needs to go.
Maybe because I'm not the brightest person here.
Join the club.
Yeah, is Anthony DeMarco? Does he not cover the Bruins? Right.
I believe he does. Yeah.
Yeah. See, this is the thing with Anthony DeMarco. All right, okay.
Say it.
All right. He tends to say some bullshit. I'm not saying that this is bullshit what we're reading, but like he tends to say, like, remember when Pasternak? Remember that whole thing that happened, and like he was like, he was basically gonna like request to be traded.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
You know what?
Right.
Because there's so much like talk in Boston, like on a daily basis with that team, that I don't know what to believe. Like even with the Marchand rumors, I'm kind of like on the fence about like how legit is this, and because it's because of just being like a fan. You just can't imagine certain players not being on their respective teams.
Radar.
I would say this: if the Bruins were to move like Marchand, I don't think like moving Carlo like sends a message to the entire Boston Bruins franchise.
No.
But if you see Marchand get moved, I'm telling you right now, that's the signal for a rebuild. I'm just being very honest with you.
I think the signal's out there already too, and that's what.
And I'll tell you this, and I'll tell you another thing. I think David Pasternak's name is going to get mentioned again in the offseason. I'm just saying, if they start rebuilding, I'm just saying.
But you need
because if you're Pasternak, let's look at for Pasternak for a second, real quick, Kyle. Do you really want to spend the majority of that contract that you so badly wanted?
Yeah.
On a team that may struggle to make the playoffs the next 4 or 5 years? Like, you want that?
Yes, he does. Why? Because he's getting his bag. He's getting
because he doesn't care about winning there.
Well, a lot of these guys, for the most part, like, why do you think they negotiate so much about getting a bag?
Mitch Marner.
They want it. Mitch Marner, fucking Jonathan Huberdeau.
Mitch Marner's going to be a Blackhawk in 6 months.
Elias Lindholm, the fucking list goes on.
Right? Kyle's all-time favorite Flame, Elias Lindholm.
But there's a way that you can treat it, right? You can care and actually give a shit and try, like Huberdeau, right? Even though it hasn't.
I'm glad you brought up Huberdeau.
Right? Mm-hmm. Or, Pasternak probably still feels that, they can regroup and retool just like the Flames are trying to do and bring in whatever pieces they need. So, okay, but back to the Carlo thing here. Like, whether this is true or not, who knows, right? And
we don't know
anything. I know it's like you mentioned Anthony DeMarco. You take this.
It's not a knock on. I'm not trying to like knock on him as a person. It's
I get it.
There have been so many times where he has posted something, and like it was not even close. Like you find out after the deadline, like that was never even something that was talked about. What are we discussing?
But also too, like Flame's interested in Brendan Carlo. I'm interested in chicken noodle soup. Do I eat it? No.
Yeah,
like that's why, like
you don't like chicken noodle soup.
Whatever, I'm back and forth on it. It's fine. But you know what I mean. But you know what I mean. Like it's
on the brand.
Like to me, like reading that's like that literally mean you're telling us nothing, right? I'm sure 31 other teams would be interested in Brendan Carlo.
Here's the thing, guys. Like the thing that every fan will tell you, and I said this on Instagram yesterday. I'm tired of thus and so team being interested in thus and so player. I want action. I'm like, I've never.
That's why I only trust Elliot Friedman. That's it. I'll trust Friedman. That's about it.
Well, here's the thing. The guys that I trust are Friedman. I like LeBron because LeBron waits, and you know what LeBron does? You ever notice? He waits until Friedman says something. 5 minutes later, he'll be like piggybacking off of what he just said. And then who else? Who else would be like? Oh, Dreger. Dreger's the best only because if it involves a Canadian team, he comes out of left field with something you didn't expect.
He has it. Yeah, totally.
So
I only trust Friedman for me. Like he's the guy. Did
you see the way he broke the news about Seth Jones getting traded. He just casually walks on Sportsnet's desk. He's like, hey, and then what was it? Bieksa asked him like, hey, what's going on, Freeds? And he goes, Seth Jones is a Panther. That's what's up. He just stands over top of him like a child. Also, his hair, he's having the hair problem again because he's stressed out. It's starting to like, if the Flames miss the playoffs. What's up, Dylan?
So sorry, I forgot to say that Dylan was also just catching us here. And I wanted to bring it up before we go to a break here. It's a good question, right?
If 45 minutes without a break.
I know. Yeah, it's fine. We'll take a break now. If the Flames miss the playoffs by a couple of points and end up picking 13 and 16 in the draft, was it all worth it for the 3 quarters? Absolutely. For sure. For sure.
Maybe Dylan's looking at this from the Canucks perspective.
Maybe. But we all expected this team to be bad this year, right? I don't know how many outlets said that this team was going to bottom out, right? And that just hasn't been the case. To me, like, I'm learning a lot about this team this year, right? I'm learning that Dustin Wolf, you stick him in the playoffs with a little bit of a better team than the Flames, you might have to give him a chance, maybe in the playoffs. Those goaltenders have stolen series before, right? So I'm just learning a lot going forward, right? And I'm learning that, the vets are slowing down. It's evident from Backlund to maybe if you want to throw Coleman in that ballpark. I'm just noticing a lot of these vets on the team are just starting to slowly slow down, right? And that's why I'll bring up Backlund, and I think he needs to go this offseason. I'll be the one to say it. I think Backlund's time is done. And it was a nice gesture to give him the captaincy, and I totally agree with all that. But I think at some point you have to pivot. Okay, so let's now take a break. Let's take the read. We'll get into some other news going into this week, and then we'll peace out finally. as if these episodes are getting longer and longer and longer, right?
Yeah.
Let's get into it though. Get to a break, and we'll come right back.
Yeah.
It might not feel like it though, but spring's right around the corner. You know how you can tell? Golf is hitting the links, and we have some tournaments to talk about. I love this. It's my favorite app.
Yes. We need to make a bracket. We need to make a bracket this year.
The Masters coming up, and if you want to do more than just talk, put your money where your mouth is. Get on all the T-Dot Green action with DraftKings Sportsbook from Thursday's opening round through the closing round Sunday. DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered with tournament props, live betting, odds boosts, and so much more. If you've never bet on golf before, it's easier than you think. Just pick something simple like who's going to win the tournament and make your pick. It's just that easy. I literally just did that this past weekend because I got a nice little $5 deposit from DraftKings. I picked a guy named Thomas Dietrich to win the Masters this year. None of you know who that is, and that's okay because this isn't a golf podcast. Here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5. You can get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. It's only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. And if you have a gambling problem, you can call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, you can call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. And please play responsibly. Okay.
Who did you pick again?
A guy named Thomas Dietrich to win.
Thomas Dietrich. What are the odds for him to win? Did it say?
They were high.
So like 1,800 to 1?
It was probably higher than it was something like I put $5 down, and I think my payout would have been like $350, close to $400.
I think I'll say my pick is Ludwig Aberg, by the way, because
I totally would have gone with him. Yeah.
Have you seen him in that what is it called? The TGL, that like 3-on-3 golf thing? He's really stupid. I had never heard of him until this tournament, and I was like, he's 25 and he's literally won everywhere he's played. Yeah, he's definitely, yeah. And like, I'm not a golf person, but I watch the Masters. I don't watch another damn tournament the entire year. But when it's Augusta, Georgia, yeah. You
should really watch. Like, I watch for the majors too. Don't get me wrong. And I watched some golf yesterday when they played in.
I watched the Olympics. Like when they play in the Olympics.
Yeah, watch the U.S. Open and the PGA and the Open. Oh my God, when they play in the UK. So
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree. I think Auberg finished second last year in the Masters.
Is it Auberg? Yeah, it shows you how much I know my
Well,
Europeans.
whatever, close enough.
Auberg.
I think it's going to be Oberg. Oberg, excuse me. That's his name. But
Just
I
like
like Petrie because
I also like
he
Tommy Fleetwood. I think Tommy
was
Fleetwood could do some damage.
he could surprise some people. The thing about the Masters is like you really have about half the field who's going to have a chance because the other half is full of amateurs, older guys, older vets, who are just out there for fun, right? It's
Yeah.
really about half the field, right? So I like this Dietrich guy though because he won a tournament a couple of weeks ago at the Waste Management. He
Yeah.
dominated the field. It wasn't even close, right? And that was a name that was coming up, and he's had some good tournaments. So I'm kind of like he could surprise people.
Ride the hot hand. No, I get it.
Ride the hot hand. My guy though, pulling through is Jordan Spieth. Though,
Yeah.
all the way.
Isn't this like the most like wonderful time of the year for sports? Like if you think about it, right? We have the playoff push for the Stanley Cup playoffs, the NBA playoffs, baseball's back. You have the Masters coming up. March Madness is literally right around the
around the corner.
Around the corner. Yeah, guys, we sometimes will talk about other sports other than the Flames.
Bro, I'm telling you right now, when the Masters comes along next month or whatever, when it ends, like on Monday, I'm talking about it. I'll be all over it.
Yeah, can we like have a talk about? Yeah, I think we should have a section.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about the Masters for sure.
For sure.
So okay, so you got Oberg. Yeah, if it wasn't like I probably would have picked Oberg too, but I wanted to pick higher up because I want my little $5 deposit to mean something. Yeah. So that's why I did.
I'm very bad at like picking like an underdog. So like a lot of the time I'll go with I pick I will tell you right now, full disclosure, the only sport that I've yet to place a bet on in a game is hockey. I can't do it. I can't because it's too unpredictable. I say it always. Like I did try one thing I did try that I was pretty proud of myself. I tried there was like a rugby like bet that I thought was hilarious that I looked for. But rugby is still not considered as big of a sport as it should be. But I always tell people if you're betting on sports, if you just want to like bet for the sake of betting, find the funniest sport you could find. And put money on it.
Watch it. It's hilarious.
Like yesterday was ESPN 8 the Ocho Day. And it was literally you literally could bet on like kickball.
You know what's great though, too, if you do sign up with DraftKings, is I don't do anything. I just get random $5 bet like slips to just go use. And I'll go do it.
It really guys, it really is random. It's very random.
Times, yeah. But that's why I took the chance and did it with the Masters. I won one time. Before a tournament started, I picked a guy to win, and it was on like a $5 bet or a $10 bet or something like that. And I think I won like $300.
There you go.
And it was amazing, and it was awesome.
There you go.
That's why I continue to do it. All right, let's.
That was our long extended DraftKings promo, by the way.
And golf talk. Okay. Really quick before we get into other news here. Rest of the week looks like this. We're going to be in Philadelphia on Tuesday to take on the Flyers. It's the first time since the trade, obviously, that happened earlier on in February. I believe it was February, late January, 1 or 2. And then Thursday will be in Dallas. The Flames finish up the road trip in Dallas on Thursday before they head home on Saturday to take on the Montreal Canadiens. Again, Friday is going to be the deadline day, so the Flames will not be having any games on Friday, which is huge, which is great. How do you envision this kind of week going? We talked about Philadelphia a little bit on Tuesday. Yeah. How do you envision them finishing up this road trip after seeing them these last 4 games?
I personally expect them to finish 1-1. I think best case scenario, you could obviously look at and say it's like 2-0. We somehow snatch victory from the jaws of defeat in Dallas. But like even if you finished like 1-0-1, right? You get a win, whether it's Philly or Dallas, and you get a point, whether it's Philly or Dallas. I think it's important for them to try to finish the road trip on a high note because I don't think it's that the Flames are down on themselves. I think they're frustrated because of the lack of scoring and knowing that they've been in teams. I think for them, they want to go back to Calgary at the end of this week feeling like, okay, like we were able to rally some points off. At this point in the year, we're down to the final 20 some odd games of the year. It's all about collecting points. it's all about racking it up as much as humanly possible.
Yes. So, also, real quick shout out to Daniel Vladar, who was awesome on Saturday.
He deserved a better fate against
he deserves
Florida.
So much better. Do you think he gets traded Friday?
No.
No, I don't either.
Because I think I can only think of one goaltender that potentially gets moved. One. And it's John Gibson.
Gibson, yeah.
Because man, did you see how depressed he looked after that loss to Chicago? Like, how has he not had it for the past 4 years?
Get that man out of there.
Like, I would like him somewhere.
Would it surprise you if Zegras gets moved?
No.
No, interesting. Okay.
No, because I think that people want to say, oh, Trevor Zegras is overrated. I don't think he's overrated. I think the issue is, similarly to Jack Hughes, if you really think about it, is that the man keeps getting hurt every freaking year. Look at the last injury he had. There was not a soul around him. He literally did an awkward spin and he got hurt. I'm like, that sucks. Like, and he's a good player. He's a fun player to watch. I enjoy watching Trevor Zegras play. I'm just not okay with a world where Habs fans are going to be unrelentlessly annoying if he ends up on Montreal. Like, I will get, I was just listening to, I don't know if you've ever listened to the Bar Down guys over on TSN ever. And Jesse Pollock was like, yo, what if like Mike Matheson for Trevor Zegras? I'm like, what the like, why? Like, this is the type of stuff.
Take those guys assault too, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, you have to. Like, I'm sorry. Like, it's like a lot of it's for content and give him credit.
Of course.
But yeah, take him with a grain of salt.
If he was just like suggesting, I'm like, please stop. I'm like, for the love of all that is holy, please stop. Because it's just like, I think there's a world where Montreal could get Trevor Zegras. I unfortunately think that Zegras would go for a lot less now than he would have a couple of years ago. But like, Anaheim, unfortunately, in my opinion, Kyle, is in a position where it doesn't feel like that they're rebuilding correctly, and it doesn't feel like they're retooling correctly either. So they're kind of in a weird spot where, like, I'm not really sure where they're going and what their direction is. If you clean house this deadline, right? You move John Gibson, maybe you even move Zegras, I think you're kind of making a message that, like, now you're going to really suck. Like, move it. I don't know. Like, the trade I didn't get from Anaheim's perspective because I was like, what are you getting out of this? So I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, yeah. So quick shout out to Vladar. He was sensational. He won't get moved. And whatever. If he goes into the offseason, he wants to walk, let him walk. Like, whatever. Like, there's no point in getting
he's going to want to stay after this year. I don't.
I feel like he would too, and I'd kind of be okay with that, to be honest, which is weird because
I'll give you a name. I'll give you a name for an upgraded backup if he becomes available in the offseason. I think Jake Allen. And I say that because Nico Dawes, the Devils' like young up-and-coming goaltender, has played really well in the absence of Jacob Markstrom.
So you want him to take that next step kind of thing.
And Jake Allen has played very well despite his win-loss record. He might play himself out of New Jersey in terms of like how much he's getting paid. If the Flames are looking for help outside of the organization, like if they don't want to ride Devin Cooley, although I really, really think that would be the right move, that's a name I would throw out.
I don't know. I'm back and forth on Cooley. Yeah, he's doing great in the AHL, but things change when he gets to the NHL. It's two completely different leagues, And like,
it's true.
Yeah, do I want to see him for a couple of games? Sure, but do I trust him as a true backup goaltender? No, that's something you can go buy easily, right?
Right.
You can go out and buy Jake Allen, right? Speaking of backup goaltenders, Charlie Lindgren did extend this morning to a 3-year deal for $3 million. Thoughts on Lindgren's discussion?
So now the Caps have both guys locked. Great. I think it's great because the Capitals, since obviously getting rid of Braden Holtby, have been looking for like consistent goaltending, and I think that this just shows you like how voodoo like goaltending can be. That like a combination of Thompson and Lindgren is what's not carrying, but it's like a huge difference maker in this team. Like.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So it's great. I was worried about that. I was worried that, like, when Thompson got his extension, I'm like, so where does that leave Lindgren? but I'm glad they kept him.
It's a good thing that they did, right?
How much did they give him?
$3 million. Three by three was what it was.
So it's 3 years, $9 million. 3 years, 9.
Yeah, in total, yes, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for. I was like, is it 9 million? Like,
yeah.
Gotcha. Because I was thinking, if you're saying he got $3 million over 3 years, that might be that would be like, why did Lindgren take that deal? That's not fair.
No, it's a good deal, and also too, like, we're definitely in an age now of hockey where a two goalie system is a must.
100%
successful, right? You need to be successful because you need guys to split, and you need to make sure that they stay healthy, right? The best case of it is Washington, and I think that it just solidifies it for the next little bit because you got a reliable number one in Logan Thompson, and you got another guy in Charlie Lindgren who can come in and play 30 games, and he can give you a chance to win every night.
And I would argue, and you may not agree, but I would argue, like, even in the Cup years of Tampa, like, yeah, they rode Vasilevsky a lot. They still had decent backup goaltending anyway. Wasn't what
they did until like when they got to the playoffs, though they rode Vasilevsky.
Well, yeah, of course. And I think,
right.
I remember, I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago, I think Carolina had that situation where, like, they had Freddie Anderson and Antti Ranta, and Ranta only played road games because he would do really well on the road. And then Freddie Anderson would do home games because he was doing very well at home. I thought that was very interesting. And I think the only reason I could see Carolina not making a move for John Gibson is because of Kochetkov's play.
True. That's true because he's played well, right? And
because again, remember, Gibson basically, it's been told that like he wants to go somewhere where he's the starter. He's the guy.
Yes.
And I know that Carolina would want him, but I don't know if Carolina would be like, we get him? All right, you're the number one guy. I don't think they would think that.
So, no, I
Edmonton.
Yeah, no, he needs to. And, well, I was actually just going to mention that too. That crossed my mind. One of the teams that I think is under the most pressure coming deadline day is going to be Edmonton, right? Because the goaltending's been frankly a mess for a good chunk of the year, right?
What a shock.
Defensively, what a surprise. Defensively, it's been kind of a mess too.
Especially with Nurse being out the last couple of games with an injury.
Been a mess. So if you're Edmonton, like from what I read this morning, it's that Vander Kane's no movement clause has now been gone to partial. So he's opened it up to some other teams, right? So they want to move Kane's contract, right? To kind of free up some space. And I think they have to do that because I think they're very tight when it comes to the cap, if I'm not mistaken. And the guys that they went out and got for free agency and Arvidsson and Skinner and all these other guys, like it's been a good year. Don't get me wrong for Edmonton, but I think they're more or less just looking at the playoffs going, we might get exposed a little bit because they need to get their big guys in McDavid and Draisaitl rolling again.
For sure. Did get a little bit of Flames news, sort of. Walker Duhier just got put on waivers today.
Yeah, they won't get him.
No, I'm not saying they will. I just like, hey, Flames fans, remember this guy?
Yeah.
Got 2 seconds. Also, Tristan Jarry is back in the NHL. He got recalled today from because Joel Blomqvist stinks.
That was a bad performance yesterday from him. That was awful.
Maybe Pittsburgh calls for John Gibson.
Yeah, but at that point, it's like,
saying,
what's the point, right? You might as well try to go find your next goaltender, right?
Also, going back to the Flames game against the Flyers, that might be the last time we see Scott Laughton as a Flyer.
Yeah, that's right. He was one name I think he's going to get traded this week, and I think there's been too much link between him and Toronto.
If they get if the Flyers get a first, they have fleeced whoever they got him.
Oh, for sure.
Because there's no way in hell that Scott Laughton is that good.
No, he's not worth a first-round pick, right? But guys look at it, too. Like, if he was traded to, I don't know, Vegas, for example, right? Like, and they want to give up a first, you're really looking at it like almost a second-round pick because it's going to be late anyway in the first, right? Mm-hmm. Unless for some reason they get bounced. That's why, like, you got to remember, like, first round of the playoffs is always big. Because for some of these teams who are out, you're probably rooting for the other team that doesn't have your pick, right, to win.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
And then it makes that pick so much better, right? So
right, of course.
It makes it interesting. The only last thing I had on my docket today was, 2 things I had, but we talked about it a little bit at the beginning with Jack Hughes. And I'm sure we're going to find out today. So we did mention
Maybe not today.
we talked about it at the
The
beginning.
Devils don't practice today, so like you're not going to get anything
Okay,
from
fair.
the Devils today. My honest guess, is that sometime tomorrow, and it's not going to be like an official diagnosis. It's going to be one of those things where it's like Jack Hughes is out week to week with the upper body injury or some bull crap like that.
Crap like that. Yeah. Okay. So with Hughes
This is
being
where Friedman is going to be so important because Friedman will be the one that'll say like, "No, Jack is going to be fine," or something.
He's gonna be important. So with Hughes being out, I imagine like they want to know before the deadline, and they will obviously, which is kind of the timing of it. So it's not great, but it's okay because they know before the deadline. It makes you wonder, like they can put him on LTIR, and who knows what they could do at the deadline. And like I think Neil, like just from my perspective, you don't want the season to go to waste, right?
No.
Like you are second. I think they're still second or third in the Metro. One of the two. I haven't looked at the standings yet. They're third. So they're
2
third
points behind Carolina.
Yeah. So you're still in the conversation a little bit, right? And Neil might have froze out there for a second there. Give him a hot second here. Okay, I don't know what happened with Neil. I'll bring him out for a second and try to bring him back in. But I'll finish off by saying, like, and I know once Neil gets back in here, he'll have his take. You don't want to waste a season, and you want to make sure that you want to make the most of it, especially because, you know, things can change on the fly just like that. That's the scary part on all of this, right? So I'll give Neil a minute to kind of come back here. I really only had one other thing to kind of touch up upon, and it was going to be Seth Jones trade, what happened over the past weekend. And I mean, I like the fact that Florida did it, and they were able to, for whatever reason, his internet went down. That's why. I like the fact that they were able to do the move, and I think Chicago needed to kind of figure out their goalie or their goaltending situation. And I like the fact that Spencer Knight was able to go in there and boom, like all of a sudden he's now going to be a very important piece to the puzzle there for Chicago. And then also too, on top of that, I think they get a first round pick with it, right? With contingencies and all that. And, the best thing is that they only have to feed up $2.5 million per year for a Seth Jones contract, which is nothing. And I think they wanted to get out of that. And the fact they were able to get this kind of goaltender in Spencer Knight and a first round pick on top of it, I think it's something that you can't miss. And I really like that they were able to do that. So, it's going to be a very crazy week coming up. There's going to be a lot of different things that we're going to see and hear from and all this craziness. Before we leave today, I thought there would be more news on the Flames front here. Doesn't really seem like it. Again, guys, Tuesday they'll be in Philadelphia. Thursday they'll be in Dallas, and Saturday they will finally get at home to take on the Montreal Canadiens. So for the scheduling this week, it'll be myself and Neil will be on the THPN channel Friday for the live stream. The trade deadline will be there from a bit of the morning all the way up until about 1 o'clock or so, give or take, on the Eastern time zone. Will be available Friday. Thursday, we will get to you for another episode regardless. I promise. I've been bad with it lately. I'll get back onto it again where we will get to you guys again on Thursday for more Flames news. And we'll see what happens, obviously, tomorrow night in Philly and get you guys set for Thursday in Dallas where the Flames finish off the road trip. So last thing is that it seems like steam is kind of picking up a little bit on the Brandon Carlo thing. And, they want to maybe try to not do that. It's going to be interesting to see what names get picked up here. But anyway, that's all the time we really have for today. Neil will eventually figure it out, but that's okay. It was kind of at the end of the show anyway, so it's all good. That's gonna be it for us today as Neil just finds his way back in. I was just about to wrap it up.
What? Do you still want me to say anything?
Well, I just kind of wrapped it up a little bit, but I'll give you the last word here. Just on the week ahead, what you're looking for.
What did you say at the end about Jack Hughes? Just I didn't want to.
Oh, just that you're gonna have a chance still to add at the deadline. If he goes on elsewhere, you can still make something.
And like I said before, I was so rudely interrupted by the internet. I don't think that Jack Hughes' injury changes a whole lot in the Devils' direction. Elliot Friedman even said this morning that he expects the Devils to be probably the most active team at the deadline because they need like 4 or 5 new pieces, which they're not going to get all in one deadline, but like it's going to be an active team. You might look at a pretty new Devils team by the time they play against the Winnipeg Jets on Friday, which I might be going to. We'll see. I don't know yet.
It's going to be a wild day.
Have you mentioned yet what we're doing on THPN on Friday?
I did, yeah. So I said
good. You did. Wonderful.
I said at 9 a.m. Eastern. I'll be on the air. Neil, I think, is going to be there too. 9 o'clock.
Yes.
Okay. Listen,
9 o'clock. I will be there.
It was a big success last year, and it's always fun to do. Just
so much fun.
Just sit and wait and see what happens. We'll be on at 9 a.m. Eastern and probably go till about noon, 1-ish, depending on how we feel. I'm not going to go all the way till 3 o'clock, to be honest with you. So, we'll be on Friday. And I mentioned that Thursday, whether you're available or not, I'm going to do a quick episode on Thursday just to get one out there.
Yes, you did. You did mention that. I don't know. We could talk about after we're done.
That's fine.
Here, I'm excited. I'm really hoping that the deadline is fun. Like fun.
It'll be good. It'll be good. We'll get some action. I think I'm more confident now that we're going to get some action by Friday. And there's going to be a lot of things.
I think we will. By the way, I wanted to get your thoughts really quick. Gustav Nyquist to Minnesota again.
Yes.
By the way, second time that this has happened to him.
Yeah. Well, they didn't give up much to get him, right?
Yeah, they did not.
So
I like it for Minnesota. I think it'll add a little bit of scoring. Do you think Ryan O'Reilly gets moved at the deadline? I think he does. And I think it's Vegas.
Desperate. I think Nashville's desperate at this point. I think they're desperate to sell off.
You don't think Trotz gets fired, right? After you think
he's going to get fired.
You think he gets fired? This is year 1.
Yeah, he'll get fired.
Year 2.
I don't know if it's maybe not year 1, but maybe in year 2. Yeah, he'll get fired eventually.
No, this is year 2 for him. I'm just saying, like, I feel like I don't know. I think Andrew Burnett could get fired for sure.
Sure, but I think he just set this team back years.
He set him. They have no like depth. It's crazy to me.
All the prospects they traded.
They traded all their prospects for nothing. They haven't gotten anything. It's crazy. That's crazy to me. I just want to say some non-hockey news. Legendary former head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, Jimmy Johnson, has announced his retirement from Fox Sports.
Well,
after 31 years doing it,
go retire.
Just
go away.
Go away. All right, sick.
Just go.
I would like to see the NHL have something like a Fox, like Fox and NFL like team. I mean, they kind of have it with
PK
with TNT.
Yeah.
Also,
TNT is doing okay with it. Yeah.
Also, really quickly, I'll just say one last thing. Shout out to the Columbus Blue Jackets and just the fans of the Blue Jackets for a unbelievable stadium series on Saturday. 90,000+ people were there. You had the Gaudreaus walk the Blue Jackets in. The Blue Jackets up 3-1. Red Wings come back and tie it late, and then boom, right after, Blue Jackets take the lead and win 5-3. Yeah. I had flipped away. It was 3-3. I flipped away because the Devils were playing, so I flipped over to that. I flipped back, and it was 5-3. And I said, Jesus Christ. What? But I thought it was great. Elvis Merzlikins' second most saves in an outdoor game ever. Do you know who has the first? Trivia question, real quick.
Ryan Miller?
No, not even close.
I don't know.
It's Nico Dawes. He had 49.
Oh, okay.
He had 49 last year against the Flyers. And also, I found this out during the broadcast, Kyle. Couldn't believe it. James Van Riemsdyk, New Jersey native, has played the most outdoor games of any player in the NHL in its entire history. He's played in 8 now, with Patrick Kane behind him at 7.
That's crazy.
So
good for him. Nice.
That was awesome.
All right, let's wrap it up. We'll call it a day. Kyle's got to go back to work, and
So do I.
you all. If you don't see both of us on Thursday, you will see both of us on Friday for trade deadline day on THPN, which is always exciting. Neil, good to see you again.
Likewise.
I'll see you at the end of the week.
Later, guys.
Later, guys. Have a great day, and see you this week.